this time we're going to put a focus on Arsenal reversals. In this, there's I'd say about 3 or 4 staples, some good alternatives, but we will we'll discuss it, and you will discover along with us what is good.
Yeah, I think we'll start with douchebag because we already don't be a douchebag. We already talked about that in the action portion. It's basically the first card that I put in every virtual card, in virtual deck. So if you are new to virtual, just print out a few copies of that card and slide them into every deck. They stop any non-unique maneuver that has a reversal restriction, or when overturned can also reverse a non-damage effect, and it goes into your ring, giving you 2 fortitude. That's permanent.
So this reverses anything that can only be reversed, cannot be reversed. Something with the chain trait. Along those lines, great reversal.
Pack it.
That's
really it. Just pack it. Yeah.
Along that theme is Carlito says that's not cool. It's a 5 fortitude reversal. It ignores any reversal restriction from the reverse card. Reverse any non-unique maneuver with a printed reversal restriction. Draw 2 cards, and your opponent discards 2 random cards. So this reverses just about anything. Don't be a douchebag. Hits, including chain trait, because the chain trait is printed on the card.
It does not reverse German suplex if you're just throwing a blind German suplex.
Yeah, that's a big.
It doesn't have a reversal restriction.
So the maneuver needs to have the reversal restriction in order to affect it. The wording may say otherwise, but that is what it's.
We had a great debate about that driving back from FunCon. We probably talked about it for an hour in the car and just solutions on how they could word it to get around it, to do what they wanted to do. One of the things I forget about that card is that when it's overturned, it's -5 fortitude. So if you're overturning...
It also reverses any card with momentum, which is a revolution format card text, or any non-damage card effect. So Born of Hellfire.
Yep. Does it say in the pre-match?
No. So it does not touch Born of Hellfire. It's backfire. Then that's not cool.
That's not cool.
I think another good one I have here, Scott, that you had mentioned. My iCloud is full.
You Won't Bash Me. It's a 12 fortitude unique permanent reversal. Reverse any maneuver and draw 1 card, which is amazing for bash cards because they have a problem stopping trademark finishers and unique maneuvers. So this reverses any maneuver. It's +3 fortitude for every unique reversal that you already have in your ring. And when it's in your ring and you successfully play a bash maneuver, you get to put it on the bottom of your arsenal. So you can cycle it, use it multiple times throughout the game. It's just awesome. Reverse any maneuver. It's bashes, manager interferes. You only get one now.
Olay is good. It's a face and fan favorite. And then we have a heel cheater to cover afterwards. 8 fortitude can only be played after your opponent successfully plays a non-unique, non-superstar specific maneuver. Blank that maneuver's text and damage for the rest of the turn. Discard 1 card. Shuffle up to 7 cards from your ringside into your arsenal, and he continues his turn. Really good. It's a recursion. They can't prevent, they can't counter this or reverse this effect. You're blanking the text and damage of that maneuver. So say they want to play, name a non-unique maneuver.
I like saving it for late game when people are throwing like blindside slams and precision whatevers that don't have RMS. Precision spinebuster, I think is the one I'm thinking of. But like, big 14, 16 damage maneuvers late game and you just blank it and recur 7 instead.
And that shuffle 7 late game could be a game changer.
Yeah.
Really good. I've run it, I think, twice, and I didn't regret it at all either time. You want to talk about?
Sure, I'll talk about Shocking Interference. It's a heel run-in cheater. Has RMS, and cannot be packed by heat seekers and cannot be searched for with a no-show. As an action, your opponent discards 6 cards, so that's actually what I've used it for the majority of time packing it. It's like a super powered spitted opponent. Pitch 6. As a reversal, reverse any non-unique, non-superstar specific card, so really any non-unique action. And he overturns until he overturns 2 reversal cards, which is awesome because they can't reverse that effect because it's your turn. So it's good that way too. We've kind of seen non-unique actions not played quite as much, but if you're packing that card, it's a great reversal to have.
Any bash deck I see runs Ready to Fight. That's the non-unique action.
But it's chain.
And it's a non-chain? Non-unique,
Say bash.
Any non-bash deck is running.
Every bash. It's like they all lose. Yeah. Ready to Fight is a big one.
Backflip is a good one. Can only be played when you are Carlito or Daniel Bryan, or when you have a high flying style in your ring, which I think about a dozen plus superstars could pack. Yep. Also, this gains a new effect with cruiserweight style action, which we cover in our backstage area conversation. When played from hand, reverse any non-unique maneuver, and your opponent puts it into his hand instead. And when it's in your ring, Hurricane Rana cards get +1 stun and can only be reversed from hand and arsenal. It's alright, it ends the turn, it gets the maneuver back. With cruiserweight style action in play, the backstage area, when it reverses, I think on overturn, a non-unique maneuver, then you put it directly into ring.
And end their turn.
0 fortitude.
Yeah, I really like that. It gets more powerful with the backstage card,
which you pack with high flying style, so you combine the two, and it's a must pack. It's like kind of like a divine intervention light.
Yeah.
Get that out of here.
I'll talk about You Missed Your Chance. This is a pretty popular card in our play group. I'm not sure why it was so popular with us. I think our play area ran a lot of overturn stuff, whether it was me being Kane and Born of Hellfire and things like that. But it completely reverses any high risk. You ignore Mr. Pay-Per-View's ability. It also reverses Superplex. I'm not going to talk about the Revolution part. When this card is overturned, reverse any non-damaged card effect, even during the pre-match phase, so it does stop Born of Hellfire, and put 2 cards from your ring pile on the bottom of your arsenal. So, if you're facing a mill deck that has afterburns and stuff, and you overturn it, You Missed Your Chance, you can shuffle in Don't Be a Douchebag and Carlito and get those cards that reverse non-damage effects back in your deck, so you can almost completely prevent your opponent from pinning you with non-damage card effects. And one of my favorite things, completely reverse any high risk at 0 fortitude. I was surprised that you went your interview with Scott and his Mankind deck that played Tope as the second card of the turn, and he was saying that not a lot of people had answers for it, and everyone in our play group plays this card, and I was like, So I wonder if he saw any. I don't think he saw any You Missed Your Chances at Gen Con, because he said he pretty well started the game, every game with 16 fortitude. I think he only played 3 or 4 games with that deck because they have the 3 deck rotation, but still, it's a good card. It's slowly making my cut list now, because I'm just running the Carlito and Douchebag and high risks in our area. I kind of slowed down, but it's a meta thing, right? When Virtual first came out, people were playing Johnny Nitro, John Morrison, Gail Kim. You had not AJ Styles, but someone even before.
You're running Macho Man.
Yeah, Macho Man with the blindside elbows. There was just high risks everywhere when Virtual first started in our area. So that was another reason that it was a big card.
We could revisit Out of Nowhere. It's the action we covered, but I'm going to skip that part. As a reversal, 0 fortitude. When overturned, you have 15 or less cards in your arsenal. Completely reverse any card or card effect you put into your ring, and you may play it as if it's your first card played on your next turn. You can't respond to it. So it is a divine intervention when you have 15 or less cards.
Yes.
Combine it with like a card like Ole or like the Raw Deal 5th or 10th anniversaries. It's an amazing card. It's RMS, so it's plunge proof that late game if you can't get ahead at all. And of course, as an action, you search anywhere for a trademark and you're playing it.
Yeah.
Including Roofing Game, which is really good.
Yeah.
I pack it in just about every deck now.
Yeah, same. Since FunCon, I printed 6 copies. It goes in every deck. Next we'll talk about the Sidewalk Slam alternatives. We kind of lumped them all together. Backhand Slap is a reversal, reverse any card that cannot be reversed. I've got one thing to say about that. It's 1 Fortitude, cannot be packed when you're packing Sidewalk Slam. When played from hand, reverse any card that cannot be reversed. So this one has to be played from hand, so that's the one drawback to it. If you don't have Back to Basics or Bash cards in your ring, you get another little bonus. You draw a card, shuffle a card, and you draw and shuffle number of cards, where number of cards is equal to the number of cards that mention Adam Kreitz Memorial Tournament in your backstage area, ring or ringside. So there's a little bit of a recovery in that card. It's D0, which is pretty potent if you're facing a card that cannot be reversed but can only be reversed by D0s.
Yep.
Those are starting to pop up, little combinations, I think, from the Top Rope and Bailey, or one of Bailey's specifics, like fits that criteria. Cannot be reversed, but can be reversed by D0, or can only be reversed by D0s. So to pair with that, you could have the newest card that's been released, Unintended Consequences, which was a Gen Con and FunkCon promo. It's +5 Fortitude for each Sidewalk Slam that's in your ring. You reverse any card that cannot be reversed, or any unique antic, and then you get to pick up a card with Gen Con in the text in your hand from your ring set pile. So that's not out to the general public yet until V9 releases, and then everyone can print it off at their convenience. And then there's a little bonus that I kind of get confused reading, because
I never was bothered with it.
3 negatives when there are no non-Fortitude 0 non-chain maneuvers with printed reversal restrictions in your ring. Your Fortitude rating is +1 for every non-chain card in your opponent's ring with a reversal restriction. Yeah, I don't know how much that makes a difference in the game. It hasn't been out long enough to see it. I did pack it at FunCon, didn't play it once, so... No, I did play it once. I played it once. I guess Triple H.
I pack Backhand Slap and Unintended Consequences now over Sidewalk Slams. I don't see enough foreign objects. And I've encountered irreversibles that can only be reversed by unique reversals.
Yeah. So that's typically your decision maker. Sidewalk, do you see foreign objects, or do you see one or the other more often?
Do you have a preference what you want to cover here?
I was going to say one more thing with these uniques is that if you pair them with the Bobby Heenan faction, they can't be plunged because your unique reversals cannot be modified by your opponent. So that's another perk of running those two if you're running the Heenan family faction.
Is Backhand Slap on Back to Basics?
Yes.
So you get to search for this under Back to Basics?
Yes. Yeah. Nice memory there. I haven't played Back to Basics forever.
Neither have I. Because Back to Basics doesn't get Sidewalk Slam, so what irreversible reversals do they get?
Yep, so they have 3 of them now. We talked about Back Throw.
I really like this card.
It's a 5 Fortitude, 3 damage as a reversal. Reverse any throwback. I won't talk about the maneuver portion, but it reverses any throwback. When successfully played, he overturns cards equal to the number of non-pre-match throwback cards in his ring area and discards 1 card. Again, you're doing 3 damage, and then you're making them overturn cards on your turn so they can't reverse it. That's a big perk. If they play Backhand Slap or Sidewalk Slam, they probably have a throwback in the ring area if you played a irreversible already. So, yeah. I have slowly stopped packing it. It still has its perks and it still has its place, but it went from a must pack when we were playing like Virtual 1 to the side. First 10 cards to cut kind of deal. But yeah, I like that. It does have the overturn effect that they can't stop.
And then they take the damage after the overturn results, so you can pin them pretty easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is every throwback maneuver or throwback card?
Non-pre-match throwback card.
Okay. I don't know what mid-match there is to really...
Well, I know
Yeah,
with
that.
the Mean Gene interview with Mean Gene.
Oh, yeah.
Throwback. Charismatic? No, not Charismatic.
Who booked this match?
And throwback offer handshake. So there's two right there.
Classic Bulldog Lariat is a 10-6. As a reversal, reverse any strike, grapple, or submission when that card has the restricted modification symbol. Why did you throw this one in here, Scott?
Because it's awesome.
It's very limited to what it hits. Precision Haymaker, Atomic Lariat.
Is that not enough reason to run?
I run Dubuque. I'm so obsessed with Dubuque, Iowa right now.
Yeah. Stops a late game flawless transition.
Oh yeah.
I like it for the Atomic Lariat, and it's unique. Can't be plunged.
It's really good as a maneuver.
It's really good as a maneuver too. I almost play it more as a maneuver than a reversal. But
it becomes a 4 for 6 and cannot be reversed by reversals of 1 damage or greater.
yeah, so pair that with Ref Takes a Bump. That's going in your ring if
Yep.
you have both of them in your ring area. Basically, you can reach exceed.
And take back questioning it.
I see your point. As a reversal, it's not as powerful, but when you combine it with the move, yes, it has move, yes, it has reversal. It has Bulldog in the title, so a few superstars get perk from that. It has Lariat in the title, so a few perks. It has Classic in the title, so another few superstars get some perks out of it. So, yeah. Last one that we have is a card from Virtual 8, Volley This Throwback. It used to be an action reversal and they switched it up. It's now a maneuver reversal. Strike as a volley for 7.
And this is the only non-unique reversal that we're talking about today.
Yeah. As a reversal, if you remove random cards in your ring step off from the game equal to the fortitude rating of his card +1, reverse any non-superstar specific non-maneuver card. Or when he has a non-superstar specific corner in his ring, reverse any non-maneuver card. During your next turn, you can only play maneuvers or setup cards. So there's a few alterations. It has a higher cost than the regular volley this. It only does 1 damage instead of 2 damage. It doesn't stop superstar specifics, but the perks, you can play maneuvers from your Backlash deck. You can play setup cards, which I believe you can on the other volley this. It puts a volley maneuver into your ring area, so for some effects like volley beyond the edge, you now qualify to play that as a reversal from hand. So that's the biggest perk I've seen of it, is that it triggers volley beyond the edge. Otherwise, I think I'd still run the original for the most part. It is a throwback, so if you're like a Sergeant Slaughter, you can search for it. There was one other thing I was going to say, but it has slipped to my mind. Oh yeah, Drew McIntyre does 1 damage, so I run a few of them, and I think I run 2 and then one of the original and Drew McIntyre. Yeah. So it has its drawbacks, it has its perks. It puts a volley maneuver into your ring area. It can be played offensively as a volley maneuver. It can be packed by Funaki, which he can't pack in the original one. So yeah, there's different benefits. So that's our dozen or so reversals that are key. Again, getting into virtual, you probably want Douchebag, Carlito Says, and Out of Nowhere for sure would be the 3 reversals that I was like, put these 3 in your deck. Unless Out of Nowhere doesn't like that. I can see maybe some female divas may not benefit from that, but still, when you have 15 cards or less, it's divine. It's who can say no to that? Not me. Anything else to add to our reversal segment?
No, nothing really stands out.
Yeah, just the Heenan family faction plunge proofs all of these cards that don't already have the RMS, which is pretty awesome. When you combine it with Legend that makes Step, Escape, and Break the Hold uniques, so they also become plunge proof. So it's a good combo there. I'm trying to think of other combos that newer players may need to know about with reversals, but we covered the sidewalk replacement.
Just with virtual, the maneuvers, the ones you have to worry about are all classic maneuvers. Not classic in the title, but like already existing maneuvers. German suplexes, shoot lockups, precision haymakers. A lot of the maneuvers already existing are like the biggest parts of virtual.
Well, it's because virtual hasn't introduced a lot of non-unique cards because they're so hard to play test with. So offensively, that's what we're basically sticking with. Those maneuvers going forward. You get the odd unique maneuver that you put into a deck, but for the most part, those are the cards that people are going to be playing. If they really want to win. If they want to have fun, maybe they play other decks. I don't know. Depends what your definition of fun is. We've been over this a million times too, right? What's fun, what wins, what's competitive. Are you having fun if you're losing? See the community continue to grow, even though it's been out of production longer than it was in production. But
yeah,
for the love of the game, we keep it going. So
that's a good card too.
Yeah, it is. I haven't seen it played in a while.
No, I've ran into New Nexus a lot because then I could just get manager and interferes turn one.
Yeah.
But I don't want to talk about New Nexus anymore.
Things go in waves. They come and go, right? It's like a pendulum. You see a lot of cards and then they disappear for a while.
Like the old switcheroo.
Yeah.
Like I played that at our last event, and like some people didn't see it coming. It is an awesome way to like neuter a backed by GM Vicky Guerrero deck.
Yeah.
You just switcheroo it, and they're like, you can't do anything now.
Another card that kind of lost favor when Virtual came out, but I've seen it have a comeback, is at Showtime. And that kind of goes with your Throwback Thursday you posted last week about Hold On, It's Not Time to Show. Because when that card was released, that kind of took away from Showtime. And then you had Shenanigans that would kind of replace Showtime without them revealing your hand and overturn two, so people had a favor in that, but then people stopped packing to non-specific backstage, and it's kind of an up and down thing. So Showtime's seen a little bit of a comeback on those.
And there's the what is it? Distractingly Divalicious.
Yes.
With
you did
it. Yeah, no escape.
Making your escape. Yeah. So if you play Making Your Escape and Distractingly Divalicious, you can make it so that your opponent can't play anything on his turn. And then on your turn, you remove Distractingly Divalicious via the text on Making Your Escape. Can't be responded to. You can play cards on your first turn. So it's a neat little trick. You can only do it if it's male versus male. But again, it's an alternative to Showtime, alternative to Shenanigans, and it's neat. Most people pack Making Your Escape anyways. So good little combo.
Also, something came up, I don't have it in the notes here, but there was a user posting what is a good superstar or deck for a new player to start with and then let's think virtual. So like what has a simple ability or kind of support cards, and what I said immediately was AJ Styles. I'm thinking of it because I just played him. Because his ability is if your maneuver is unsuccessful, you search for another one that doesn't have the same title. So for a new player, you're always having accessibility to maneuvers, so you're not drawing into nothing. And his support cards, the specifics, is pretty much in his backstage area. They're simple. They don't have like all these effects. They just have some ace effects.
I like anyone that has a search ability, so that you're constantly being able to do something while you're just starting out. Because I know people like to start with a Backlash deck, so Backlash can really help you search for maneuvers and recover stuff and be reversals as well. But if you're not playing with that, having something that you can search so that you're not just draw go for a few turns. Like Batista are great, Taz is great. I don't recommend you and your buddy starting with Batista and Taz. Batista might have the slight advantage, but
Lita's a great choice. She has a great card pool.
Yep. Anyone that can search.
Even guys that can reduce fortitude on maneuvers. So if you're drawing into the higher printed fortitude cost, you're able to play them anyways. Like RVD comes to mind. Alexa Bliss, who will be coming out. Like she's like a fan favorite, favorite superstar. But like just like kind of we did when we got into the game, you play a superstar you like.
Yeah. and just play a bunch of games with it. Get a feel for what works, what doesn't work, make a few adjustments after every game. It was like when we were getting back into Rebel a few months ago, you play a game, be like, alright, I haven't used these cards ever, I'll put them in something else, and find the right balance between maneuvers and actions and reversals. And it's tough because like you want a template, but there isn't really a template because every superstar ability affects what you would pack, right? Like for the majority, a deck probably has 30 to 35 reversals, but different decks may run 0 to 15 actions or 5 maneuvers to 25 maneuvers, right? It all depends on the deck. So yeah, fortunately no template, but there's ballpark numbers and figures.
And then going on with the new player aspect of Raw Deal, let's get into, I think, our last part of our getting into virtual series and its maneuvers. So we've already gone over maneuvers that can be packed in the Backlash deck. So go back to that one and just see what we highlight. We're Dirty Low Blow, Throwback, Flawless Transition, and a few other maneuvers. But Scott, open up with the Arsenal-based maneuvers. What's your favorite one? You've got a
my favorite to start was Whirlwind Kicked. I'll hold it up, but you'll put a nice big image.
Oh yeah, be a bigger one.
I initially liked it because it was 5D. You can search for it as if it was non-unique. So if you're playing Turn the Tide or Turn Up the Heat into it, it's a multi, so they need 2 cards that can stop irreversible. So that's what I really liked about it, was that it was a multi. Put up to 2 cards from Rings Up on the bottom of your arsenal when it's successful, and it has some Revolution text, which we've never run into, but just the fact that it's a 0 for 5 multi, that can probably go in any deck that's not a female. That's what I liked most about it to start. Since then, I've switched. My favorite maneuver is the spinning wrist lock, hammer lock, takedown armbar of doom. It's a 12 for 8 multi-submission. When you have a chain in your ring, it's a chain. When you have a heat in your ring, it's a heat. When you have a bash in your ring, it's a bash. And you can shuffle up to 4 cards with any of those traits or that are multi or unique from your ring side of your arsenal. So it's a maneuver, but it also has built-in recovery. So.
And that with the Turn the Tide's good because
it's
a multi. Back to the Whirlwind Kick, with it being kind of a Revolution subtype that you can pack in Classic. It works great with cards that work with different maneuver types. Simply the Best, Beg for Mercy. I don't know if Beg for Mercy tags it.
Yeah, 4 different types of maneuvers of 40 or greater.
Oh, 40 or greater.
Yeah, that's a good point. Simply the Best. I've run that in a few decks recently because it's so good. And you have a Whirlwind Kick, it's 2 types right off the start. There are 2 accompanying maneuvers that are submission, hold, and throw, grapple. I just printed the grapple one. I'd never printed it before, so I've never played it before. I just printed it out for Luke Harper, Luke Harper deck, because it has power in it, I believe.
The submission's a 10 for 10, the grapple's a 20 for 20.
Yeah, and the 10 for 10 I used in Fandango because it has leg or knee. I can't remember.
They're not very memorable.
I didn't print them because they have their niche. I find that a lot of the maneuvers have their niche that go into certain decks, especially with the classic maneuvers. There's a classic DDT. There's a classic Power Slam. There's a classic Bulldog. Yeah, like every
armbar.
Arm. And every ability that reflects a certain maneuver with a name in it, there's probably a classic maneuver for it, and they probably get a perk for it. Like I know Tori Wilson and Jake the Snake get a perk on the classic DDT that it's considered unique instead of non-unique.
Trish Stratus is listed on Bulldogs. Chris Jericho is listed on the classic armbar. And all these classic maneuvers, even though they're unique, they have a text that they can be reverses if they were non-unique. However, these superstars listed on it, usually the perk is unless you're this character, they can be reversed as if they're non-unique. So now these superstars get unique maneuvers.
And it's something to remember that they can be reversed as if they were non-unique, but they are still unique. So you can reverse them as either or if they don't have the bonus text on it. So get the F out, tag them all. like I'm thinking that volley beyond the edge. If you have a volley in your ring area, it can tag them all.
Yeah.
It tags non-unique maneuvers. So
also with classic competitors, a backstage area card that could only be packed by Legends or WWF, the classic WWF logo. Superstars packing that card and classic maneuvers, get them all. Ignore that can be reverses if they're non-unique text. So now everything's unique for these guys.
they were like the Saturday Night Main Event era was before my time, so
Yeah.
I've never really looked into any of them. I've never
really.
played any of them. Kaminari is big on like I think he's played all of them. Brutus, Yokozuna.
Bam Bam Bigelow I ran into.
Yeah.
I played against an IRS online. He's really nasty, so I was thinking of printing him off.
Yeah.
But it's just I'm not invested in those characters,
Yeah.
and that's a big portion of why I come to this game is to play the superstars that I enjoy on television.
Exactly.
So I
And
wanted
that's
to
why I
reflect.
built Luke Harper recently, because I'm a huge Luke Harper fan. He was on the ENC podcast. I was like, oh, he sounds like a great guy.
He's hilarious. And funny bit of trivia, the listeners might not know, but Mark House was involved in training him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they're all from Rochester area.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
And Hellcat, remember Hellcat?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was on that YouTube little documentary for Luke Harper they did, where he revisits where he began training wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good video. They did it for a few superstars. Ruby Riott, Seth Rollins. It's a behind the scenes look at like where they came from. Highly recommend it.
Our Iowa listeners will enjoy this.
Yes. But my maneuvers, I think one of my favorite Arsenal-based virtual maneuver is blindside takedown. I love blindside maneuvers because, especially with the promo mechanic, that means you have a maneuver you could play from hand if you have it there, but you could also play it from ringside. However, this one, with it being cheater, when it's in your ringside, you're non-chain cheater cards, so that's everything. Are -3 fortitude, and he cannot move this card from ringside. That's great. In AJ, I use thrust kicks. They're a volley cheater maneuver that's 7 for 8. They become a 4 for 8 that can play off of the quick snap body slams and Japanese arm drags that he gets high risk. In Stone Cold, or the Rattlesnake, he's got a cheater action, the Condemn, that he can search for now.
Anyone that has a cheater action that costs fortitude, that's great. It's great with blatant chokehold. And after you hit the quick snap, it's -3, so you can play that. Essentially turn
I didn't think of that in him either.
I ran it in Fandango. I know you run it in AJ, but yeah, it's pretty well the same. Like, play those reduced cheater cards, and with Fandango, you got, if your maneuver is not successful, you put under managed by Samurai, and you can play one card a turn under it. So you can just like play it till it hits. Like almost second turn.
Thrust knee lift is really good.
Yeah.
Because throwing constant multis.
It's
very
damned if you do, damned if you don't too, right? If they reverse it, it goes to your ringside, then you can put on the bottom and they have to randomly remove too. So.
And also, another bonus of this card is whenever you search your arsenal, you can search for this card and put it in your ringside box.
So you can pack it in the Back to Basics deck. Big beefy multi-move that Back to Basics lacks.
I didn't think of that.
When you search for your cards, you slide it in your ringside pile because your opponent only gets to search your arsenal and Backlash deck. So if you can somehow play Philly first, you can get 3 foreign objects in your Back to Basics deck as well, which you can do with Hometown Hero now.
What was the maneuver you listed that was cheater after blatant?
I don't think I said one after that.
Oh.
I know I wanted to do it with Vice Lock, but Vice Locks are chains, so
chain.
it doesn't affect chains.
What non-maneuver cheater cards benefit from this?
I was thinking of that. There's By Any Means Necessary. It's a 9 fortitude. The Reversal, the mid-match, it's a blue-red card. It's like reverse any fan favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And it's 3 fortitude, but with that on your ringside, it's -3. So that, what fan favorite cards are there? To me, Crowd Roars comes to mind. That's about it. So there's a few volley maneuvers, but like that see regular play. I think the biggest fan favorite card is It's Great to Be Back Here, which is a reversal, so you can't reverse it.
Yeah. Before we get to those foreign object ones, a big standout of the classic maneuvers is classic claw. Because I find a lot of these classic maneuvers, they're not packed outside of that classic competitor theme. I didn't pull it aside.
Yeah, neither did I. So classic claw I didn't pull aside because it's in one of my decks.
But you want to refresh them on what the old claw does.
The old claw, oh jeez.
The 14.
I don't remember.
So it's 14 for 5. Cannot be reversed from your opponent's hand. You search his art. You look at the top 5. Remove a card. Man, I'm so bad at this game.
I'm pretty sure you search the whole arsenal, remove a card, and then 5 damage.
Yeah, because people would maintain it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Anyway.
Always prepared.
Yeah.
Cannot be reversed from your opponent's hand. Search your opponent's arsenal for any one card to put into his ringside, and then shuffle his arsenal. So you shuffle your opponent's arsenal, and then you opt for him to cut it.
And then classic claw is a 14.
Classic claws is way better. So it's a 14 for 6. Can be reversed if it was non-unique. Cannot be reversed from hand, backlash, or ringside. After damage is applied by this card, choose one of your opponent's cards overturned by this card and remove it from the game.
Mm-hmm. So it's harder to reverse, technically, but almost easier to reverse because it can be reversed if it's non-unique. So it's great to be back here. It's it. Don't be a douchebag. Carlito says. All those cards that people run, almost all available copies in all of their decks.
But I mean, at most you're going to encounter 3 of them in a deck. I find it's usually 2. Like, don't be a douchebag, and Carlito says.
Yeah.
So from Backlash deck, they're not touching it because there's nothing there. Ringside isn't touching it.
Yeah, no headstones.
And honestly, if you're at 14 Fortitude and you haven't seen those 2 reversals yet, if you're building like chain and everything,
you're probably not.
Probably not. And you're gonna hope that they overturn it.
Yeah, and then you can.
I don't think you can remove it from the. No, the douchebag you don't remove from the game.
It goes to ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you remove the Carlito, and then. I don't know, this is a perfect maintain hold.
It's a good
maneuver.
Yeah. The problem is late game they have lots of reversals usually in their arsenal. So you'll look at the top. Well, after damage is applied, I find that I've only had 1 or 2 damage happen. Right, it's 6 damage. So they overturn elbow or revo. And you're like 1 card.
Well, I mean, but if they overturn like a sloppy, very sloppy, or a manager, those are great cards to remove.
Yeah.
Or if they overturn a divine intervention, big deal.
Yeah.
You just got 6 fortitude, so this will bridge you to 20. I think you can start checking those dynamic finishers and old school pile drivers.
Which is on the list, old school pile driver.
And I just like before, I brought it up.
Great for back to basics decks because it is old school. The text says that it can be packed as if it's superstar specific. It's 25 for 10.
Yeah, so you can't do it after Classic Claw. When you're Jerry Lawler, it's -5 plus 10 in multi. Your opponent must discard 2 cards. But it's another example of a non-specific trademark finisher. There's a whole bunch of these in the game.
Back to basics.
Superstar specific. But it's a trademark finisher to begin with.
Yeah. Isn't it superstar specific?
Oh, it is when you're back to basics.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a trademark finisher any deck could run.
Yes.
Like before we had the finisher, dynamic finisher.
Yeah.
Since then, they've introduced a concerto that can be packed by a whole whack load of guys. The old school pile driver. Feel like there's another one. What a maneuver. And see how it feels in the mid-match as a trademark finisher action hybrid multi. So you can have a deck that only has 1 trademark. Well, now you could give them an additional 6 trademark finishes.
Yeah.
And they're difficult to reverse. Like, I love non-multi trademark finishers.
Yes, yeah.
Because it doesn't...
Because once they're multi, they can be hit by got the F out as a multi-reverse.
Well, F out hits it if it's non-specific.
Yeah.
But once it's enough, can't touch it.
Yeah.
And our meta right now is pretty face-heavy.
Yeah.
Other than that, you want to talk about...
There's table, ladder, chair. I couldn't find my table. There's trash can separate. I don't know where my table is.
Okay, let's talk about trash can and then we'll visit these ones here. I'll talk about this, then you can go about that. So trash can is a foreign object strike. It is, I think, a premier maneuver, the very first set before, where you have it in play, you can activate it to hit it.
Yeah.
And then your opponent can activate it on his turn to hit you.
Yeah. Kind of gimmicky, but it was fun.
But this one is, it's a different flavor on the gimmick. So when it's successfully played, you can choose to reduce the damage to 0. If you do, it's considered to be resolved. So you can't overturn reversals. There's no stopping it. And you cannot play reversals to it. So no sustained damage, nothing. No, took it on the chin.
Yeah.
No oversell, that's a big one. No lay.
Yeah.
And when your next card played this turn is a strike, you cannot play reversals to it.
Yeah.
So it's really good because then you can't restricted use.
Yeah. You get 2 in a row, basically.
Yeah.
Really good if you can successfully play a strike. And I found like that was the issue when I was playing in a Lackey game, was that he was just throwing strike foreign objects. So I had Revos and Sloppies and Sidebox Lands and leg drags, and I didn't really have an issue with reversing the plain vanilla foreign objects. It's when you turn the tide that I was like, oh crap, what do I have left that can go around these maneuvers?
But with this, I mean, if you could put a reversal restriction around the trash can, you could hit something pretty nasty because you're bridging to 20 fortitude with this if you play it.
Yeah.
And then
the next strike after that, can't play reversals too. So. It's good in first blood matches because you get 2 foreign objects instead of 1.
Oh, get it busted wide open out afterwards.
Yeah.
That's game.
Touch turnbuckle 3. Oh,
whoa!
Coming up with the tech over here.
But I mean, this next set of maneuvers are also strikes.
Yeah. Yeah, the table, ladder, chair.
Oh, you need table. Why did I look up chair?
Mm-hmm. Probably because it has a different image than you're used to. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, they're just 3 unique foreign objects. Table is the only one with the reversal restriction. Otherwise, chair is just a unique 10 for 10. Ladder is a unique 12 for 8. Table cannot be reversed by elbow to face, revolution of the mind, or sidewalk slam, which we've already mentioned. And then when I have a hard time wrapping my head around their added effects. But when you successfully play, and each maneuver has a different type, or are they all the same? A grapple or a high risk or a trademark, without maintaining the text. You may choose this card until the maneuver finishes resolving. And then you ace it. When it's chosen, you put this card in your ringside, and your successfully played maneuver is plus a certain amount of damage and stun value. It's different for each of the 3.
So your move doesn't need to be successfully played when you're choosing it.
Okay.
So for the sake of wrestling, let's pick table. So I have a table successfully in play. It's already there. So I go to play any grapple, high risk, or trademark finisher for classic. So
Dynamic finisher.
Name a dynamic finisher. So I play a dynamic finisher, and then I choose table. Okay. So if the dynamic finisher is reversed, nothing else happens. If the dynamic finisher is successful, I put the table into my ringside pile, and now dynamic finisher is plus 8 damage, plus 1 stun.
Which they can't reverse that ace.
They can.
They can?
Yes.
So then your dynamic finisher would do nothing?
It still needs to resolve the damage.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because the card effect's still going, you can't...
Yeah, you can't end the turn without resolving the card that has been successful.
Unless, it's that Booker T card that was ruled that if you overturn a Let's Wrestle already. No, remember the how many do you need? Or how many times? Where they ruled if Let's Wrestle already overturns on the text, it doesn't do the rest of the text.
Yes, that's the thing. That's the thing with every text. As soon as they overturn, same with Here Comes the Cavalry. If you play it against a tag team, you have to overturn 2. If they overturn Douchebag or Carlito, you don't get to do Shuffle 8, Draw 2.
But then you resolve your damage on this still.
Yes. On what? The trademark?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So that's good for new players, because even experienced players are like, WTF?
But it's fun. It's better than the actions in the ladder and the table actions. It's more thematic.
Yeah.
You can search for these off of the TLC match stipulation that Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys, and the Dudley Boys get. The Dudley family has text that kind of sneaks us into play. Excuse me. They're fun maneuvers. It's just try to play strikes.
Putting them in the right deck, yeah. The strike and the foreign object. But as I said, like the move from Sidewalk Slam is kind of shifting away as people pack unintended consequences and backhand slap because they're uniques and one of them's a D0. So we may see Sidewalk Slams packed a little less, which makes these a little easier to reverse.
These with like a kitchen sink.
Yeah.
I mean, they are unique maneuvers, so things that tag non-unique maneuvers are no good to this. Yeah, so there's some maneuvers. Do you have any closing thoughts on for new players getting into virtual? Kind of visited it at the beginning.
What I would do is pick your favorite superstar and just print out that set of cards. That's 10 to 15 cards and build them with the classic cards. And just start with that, right? Get to know new cards. I would look at a few of the staples that we mentioned in each of the segments. Carlito, Douchebag. But just pick one superstar. That's what I found overwhelming was trying to learn. They brought out like over 100 superstars with 10 to 20 cards each. Like that's a lot of new cards to learn, right? Like over 1,000 cards. That definitely takes time to learn and looks overwhelming. So pick a superstar you like, start with that, slowly introduce a few of the key virtual cards, and I wouldn't print out too many superstar specifics to start out.
We made that mistake when we first started.
Right, a lot of people did. They're like, I'll print out 25 superstars, and then you build one, and then you want to modify it, and then you want to play it in a tournament, so you keep a deck together for 3, 4, 5 months. Like, that takes a while to go through those 25 superstars, and then newer guys come out every year, and you're like, oh, I want to build a more current guy than build legacy, right? So, yeah, that would be my advice.
Yeah, I agree. And most of your deck isn't going to be virtual. The majority of your deck is going to be the old classic Raw Deal cards. We brought it up with the reversals, like the pre-match and mid-match, where you'll have select cards, maybe 3 pre-match cards. Your reversals are only going to maybe be 5, 6 total maneuvers, mostly classic. Everyone complains about reversal restrictions, but they're coming from shoot, lock up, German suplex, bootlace, shake, poke. Like these were cards that already existed, and they're more of a problem, more of complaints about it now than I heard when the game was being actively produced. But yeah, just pick your favorite superstar. If they're a little complicated and you can't wrap your head around it, pick your second favorite superstar. You can go to teamcanadaonline.net. That's where all the virtual is. You can go to, there's a superstar strategy guide. You can go to the index and it lists every character made in Raw Deal and all the cards. If you're more of a visual person, go to the SoCal Raw Deal Facebook page. And it has all the virtual cards. They have folders by superstar and there are folders for superstar specific, so for existing superstars in Raw Deal.
Yeah, and if you want a really easy way to get into Raw Deal, look at Revolution. Like it's very simple. I've taught many people how to play Revolution in 20 minutes and played a game. Raw Deal SG has all the cards there to look at. Keith does superstar strategy guides for he's just started doing one a week or something, one every 2 weeks, which is great because again I was getting into Rebel and I'm like I have no idea where to start with these guys, so that's a neat feature. They've done that a little bit on TCO where they post like what have you done with this superstar or whatever, but we haven't really had a full on like here's what you should do with this superstar.
And with Raw Deal being kind of harder to access now, with Raw Deal SG Facebook page, he has made, I think, every card available to print with alternate arts, so it's kind of more updated artwork, and you can cherry pick what you want to do. You can use Photoshop or Microsoft Word, just kind of paste those cards onto there and print them off as you need to. There's also the Discord page, just look up TCAT Online Discord page. We'll also have the link in the show notes.
Hop into virtual.
So this is the wrap up as I have it here.
Yeah.
We're hoping to close the virtual. I mean, don't take this as like a textbook or like the law of it. I mean, go out there, experience virtual. A lot of superstars have a lot of specifics. Don't feel that you need to run all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I built New Day when they came out. I didn't run 3 of their specifics because it didn't work with the theme of my deck. I mean, so. We can talk about New Day. We can talk about the promo mechanic they added. I think it was Virtual 7. They added a lot of superstars. Had that in there. With like Sami Zayn. That's all that comes to mind. Ray, bless you.
Yeah.
So like promo will have a number after it, and then what you do is when you promo, you look at the top number of cards, put one into your hand, the rest into your ringside. I have a bit of experience with promo. With New Day, it's like kind of like a little mini give them high fives every time. But
when do they promo? Do you play a face card or?
I will find out because I set it aside. When you successfully play a cheater or heel card, you may promo 3 and then put up to 1 card from your ringside on the bottom of your arsenal.
Nice.
We could talk about with Alexa because promo is on her ability. You find it builds up your hand pretty quick.
Yep, it builds up your hand. You're getting key cards in your hand. The one thing it does do is thin out your arsenal unless you have a New Day ability like that. Luke Harper is the same. You promo 3 and then you put one on card from your ringside pile on the bottom, so it's not as devastating. I like that. With those 2 instances, you get to choose like any card in your ringside pile. You don't have to choose one of the 3 that you just promoted. So that makes it a little less harmful to your deck. Mm-hmm. You get to see more cards, get more options, so dig for the cards that you need. And then another guy played Best Wrestler in the World. When you play a shoot maneuver, you can promo 2. But he has another card that you can draw 1. So typically I'll do like one or the other. Depending on, because otherwise I just go through the deck so fast, and I ran very little recovery cards. So if I had a small hand, I'll do both. But if it's late game, I might do one or the other, or maybe neither. It all depends. And for the most part, they say you may promo, so it's really never a forced thing. Mm-hmm. Where if you only have 5 cards left, you don't have to promo. Yeah. Those are the 3 of my 5 decks currently. I have promoing superstars, and the next set coming out, I think 5 or 6 of the 12 are promo based abilities or have promo in their abilities.
But the numbers tone back a bit, where it's like it was a lot of promo 3s and 4s. That's like promo 2.
Yeah, promo 4 is really costly. I think it will speed up the game a bit because you're just thinning your arsenal that much faster. I hope that's what happens, is that you find that games pick up a bit. But at the same time, I can see building a big mitt full of cards, and that slows it down because suddenly you have reversals for everything. And who knows? We'll see how it goes.
Well, I mean, with promo, you just said you're building up reversals for everything. One thing that you won't be able to get into your hand is a card to reverse something with cannot respond.
Nice.
Do you want to elaborate on that one, Scott?
Sure. There aren't too many non-specifics, but the main one is Interviewed by Mean Gene that makes a few cards that you cannot respond to. So when that happens, you can't do anything. You can't play sustained damage. You can't play oversell.
Restricted use.
Yeah, you can't do anything. The card is successful, and they get to do what the text says. So I really like that card because it's kind of 5 free cards in your deck that you get to do things with. Offer handshake. Who booked this match? You get to draw 2 or make them discard 2. So there's those little things where like you can set up your deck strategically, knowing that you can guaranteed draw 2, 3, 4, depending on which version of offer handshake you play. And yeah, so there's a little bit of strategy there in that you get those 4 or 5 cards, but they're unique now. So you only get one copy of those cards. And then the Mean Gene, when it got revised, lost the revision of drawing 3 and then putting 3 on the bottom. So it really just it takes up a pre-match slot to use those functions. I mean, it's still strong, but
I mean, with that,
I like it.
with Mean Gene, you're getting offer handshake, which is a guaranteed either draw 4, your opponent draw 1, or you're drawing 3, discard 1, which is really strong. And it's also making these cards 0 fortitude, right?
Yeah.
You're getting good things sometimes happen, which gets you Pat and Jerry is the only thing that comes to mind for me there. And there's a mid-match hero reversal. You're getting Who Booked This Match, which is draw 2 or discard 2. Well-deserved push, which you're shuffling in 4 or recovering a mid-match card. Turn the Tide, which they can't stop you turn the tide, but they could stop the card played after it with sidewalk slams or restricted use to do it. And the same thing with Turn Up the Heat. But what I like about Mean Gene is it ignores the can only be played text on those cards. So you could be ahead in fortitude and play Turn the Tide. You could be, and anyone could run the well-deserved push for that recover 4.
Regardless of superstar value. So I mean, they're good. I've seen a lot of play on Lackey where people save them for after WrestleMania because they know their opponent doesn't have a hand. They don't have a hand, so they could draw 4 off an offer handshake if they have somebody getting it in their arsenal. And late game when you can't respond, that's when they're really powerful, right? You see that they only have 1 or 2 cards in their hand after 2 turns after WrestleMania, and you can make them pitch both from Who Booked This Match. And I was like, ooh, that's pretty potent when you can do that.
Another one too is build your deck thematically around your opponent needing to use that restricted use of this area in the sidewalk slams. Because usually they're going to save the restricted or those sidewalk slams for something after Turn the Tide. So build your deck around try to make them make an important choice.
Exactly.
Like my brother's a destruction deck runs drawing a blank, which gives a reversal restriction to blank maneuvers. So, I mean, I'm only throwing big boots and roundhouse punches because it's just a little casual deck. But it's that whole theme of everything's annoying, but you only get one chance to play a restricted use of this area. So usually I find myself turning the Tide into let me get a shot in for 25.
I found myself saving restricted use for when I can respond with a backslider inside cradle and win the game. Because you only get one shot to restrict it, as you said. And do I want to use it first turn to stop them from getting 0 fortitude, and then next turn they're just gonna dirty little blow into whatever and get the guaranteed fortitude anyways, right? Or panic and scoop slam and get the fortitude. So I definitely try to save restricted as long as possible to where I'm gonna lose or I'm gonna win, and that's the card difference.
But with cannot respond, I mean that's the big non-specific one. But superstar specifics with cannot respond, there's a huge amount of them. We got a bit of a culture shock with that when we started virtual because we started with sets 1 and 2. Your Macho Man Randy Savage was a big one. I can't remember what the effect was now.
I think it was your opponent can only play D0 reversals to your maneuvers of 6 damage or less. So you just first turn you put it in play. There's a few other cards. Devil Saber Demon has...
you become public enemy number 1 in our group with these.
Cannot responds to. But we've said, really it's kind of an extension of their ability. Macho Man's ability is your elbow to the faces do +4 damage. Or your cards with elbow do +4.
But I mean, long gone are the days of just Stone Cold Steve Austin or The Rock recovering. Even you look at Great American Bash where it's the virtual stuff is so much more wordy and more effects compared to those comic images sets. That's why I've talked to a few people over the last few years now. Oh, that kind of hit me. Virtual, where it's don't get into virtual everything at once. If you have a play group, do 2 sets for 2 months. It's so much easier. But that's cannot respond. Do you have anything more to add to that? I'll let you respond to that.
Not really. Thanks.
But what I'm going to do is go to just a little word phrasing as counter that is on cards. It is like probably my favorite thing in virtual. Mm-hmm. It replaces if you reversed a card to end your opponent's turn, and this is the first card played of your turn.
Yeah, that's a lot to be replaced with. Counter.
It's just if a high risk like a CM Punk high risk maneuver just has counter.
Yeah.
Or when played as a counter. Mm-hmm. So it's like so cleaner. There you'll find some where it's like counter reversal to a maneuver or like counter from hand. It just means if you reversed a card from hand and your opponent's turn, and this is the first card played of your turn.
Yeah, exactly. I think the CM Punk card is my favorite counter. I think he has the elbow drop too, which could be played as a counter to a 60 or greater maneuver, and it's like a multi high risk, which is awesome.
I love the 15 for 15, is it? That when played from hand can only use from Arsenal.
Yeah.
Nothing stopping that one from hand. And then let's go to let's look at like branding. In the Comic Images developed stuff. We saw ECW with the belt, one night stand, all that. But with this, they've added NXT, WCW, and the classic WWF logo. Fill us in, Scott.
Well, really, they're just kind of flavor text, right? They can all. It's not like Raw and SmackDown and Comic Images. They can all kind of be mishmashed together, unless a card specifically says you can't pack these when you're packing these. But otherwise, you can pack WWF and WCW cards together, and there's no issue. So I know that comes up a lot. Can you only pack one? You can pack them as long as there's not a card in your deck that says you can't back them. You can back them.
But like that classic WWF logo, like there's a series of superstars that are from that era.
Yeah.
And then there are cards that revolve around them, like managed by Sonny. There's like backed by Mr. Fuji, backed by Jimmy Hart.
Saturday Night's Main Event.
Where it's that era of just things that you would expect from that. I didn't watch a lot of WWE
before
at the time. And then NXT is the same thing. It's NXT superstars. They're cards that can only be packed by them, or if packed by them, they gain a bonus.
Yeah.
WCW and ECW, there are superstars like that. They have cards that get bonuses, which brings me to allegiances, which is the new part of the pre-match phase. We covered it a bit in the pre-match talk. It's the first pre-match step now. But that also has cards that affect WCW superstars, ECW superstars, WWF, even if there's one that you can't pack any.
Yeah.
And that adds a nice touch to it because those pre-match cards, those allegiances, have its own card support that can only be played. It says requirement. ECW or something, which is borrowed from the Revolution formats, that wording structure. For me, my favorite allegiance, I'm kind of torn. I love McMahonism.
Yeah. In the right deck.
Yeah, where if you're drawing any cards on your turn other than your draw segment, you look at the top number of cards in your deck and you could choose to put them on the bottom and then draw.
The first time you draw.
The first time. But it also has a card that's McMahon Intervention. It's like 25 Fortitude. They can't respond to it, which...
you talked about.
If you remove Divine Intervention in your hand from the game, it's 0 Fortitude. You what is it? You draw...
Draw 12, shuffle 8.
It's bananas.
Yeah, it's a big deck manipulation card.
But that's a swing late game that's really good. Yeah. Do you have a favorite allegiance or even just one you want to
Yeah, I think McMahon is my favorite in the right deck where you know you're consistently drawing if you have an ability like RTC, Victoria, Drew McIntyre, where you know you're going to see a lot of cards. I didn't think Victoria. Holy cow. But I'm always on the winning side, my side. That's a pretty popular one because it plays for free. doesn't take up a pre-match slot, or adds a pre-match slot. That still confuses me. But yeah, +1 hand size, and then in a pinch you can use the ace on it to search for a maneuver if you don't have any maneuvers in your hand, which is good because Old School Wrestling Match is a popular card in Virtual that you have to play a maneuver every turn. So you have to watch out, because if they reverse the ace, you still have to overturn 6 for Old School Wrestling Match. But it helps you get a maneuver, so that's better than nothing.
And just counting how many there are here: 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Looks like 11 total allegiances. 10 because there's a Survivor Series print here. But allegiances, like, there's an NWO t-shirt, so you could build your deck thematically to NWO because they've released, I think, 5 non-specifics that are NWO specific, so you could build around that. The ECW one doubles numbers on like your ECW titles, so you get +4 damage to your maneuvers and +2 damage, and your opponents are -2 damage with the virtual title. It's fun. I think that it's a really good addition to the game. Changes things up if you want to build around Allegiance.
Yeah. So Allegiance is the first phase in the pre-match. With that introduction, they increased the Backlash deck size to 12 and 12, and you can play 6 and 6.
And you can no longer fit a Raw Deal deck in a Raw Deal tin.
That is correct.
Flipping cards. Because you didn't want to talk about it, Scott, I want you to talk about it.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. Because I have more experience with flipping. So flipping it's pretty simple. You're just putting a card face down from your ring area. It cannot be RMS because it's kind of modifying the card.
Yep.
Can't be active because then you could play an additional version of the card, and it cannot be permanent because you physically can't. You would flip it over. The card, it's still public knowledge what the card is, but it's like it doesn't exist. You no longer get any fortitude, any text from it. It's generally only involving superstar specifics that can flip it face down. Molly Holly, the Hart Dynasty plays cards from hand face down. Cesaro plays cards from hand face down, and they become European uppercuts.
Yeah. Eve plays like moonsaults face down.
Yeah.
Cards from hand as moonsaults. Jericho has his...
the Second Coming. Can play cards from ringside face down, and then he could choose to flip them. There is a mid-match card turning the match upside down that acts like the new Yours Graceful as a Cow on Ice. It has RMS, but you can't play it when you have lower hand, only lower fortitude, which that's become my replacement
which they
for Cow.
Can't respond to if you play it as an action.
And then there's so many... I've seen so many ideas to manipulate your cards, because turning the match upside down is you take the top 3 cards from your deck and put them in your ring face down.
Yeah. 1 string each of your turns.
Oh, 1 string each of your turns. If they have damage of 3 or less, you can flip a card face up. How does it go? I'm totally butchering it.
Yeah. Reveal the top 3 cards of your arsenal. Put any D3 or less cards into your ring face down and shuffle. And as cards in your ring, you may choose a face down card in your ring that does not have win the game in the text and flip it over.
So, I mean, judo chokes is generally what people try to get in a ring with this card.
I've used that in playtesting with Alexa Bliss, because on her 5 Feet of Fury card, which we spoiled a few episodes, it says once during any turn when your opponent successfully plays a card, you may look at the top 5 cards and put them on the top or bottom. So you can kind of manipulate and get judo chokes on top of your deck, and then play turning everything upside down, which cannot be responded to when you have lower fortitude, and then put the judo chokes in the ring area, which is kind of neat.
And you're not stopping your opponent from flipping a card face up or face down usually.
Right, yeah. And then you've played two time against me a time or two, which has the option. One of the options is to flip 2 cards into your opponent's ring area. And like when you played it against me, you flipped through all these years and something else, and like that was pretty.
Was it sustained damage?
Probably, yeah. Something that had a lasting effect. So it was a pretty powerful card late game that requires 2 reversals, I believe. So another good virtual card to look into that we've talked about a few times.
Other than that, when it comes to mechanics or additions to the game, do you have anything?
There's an FAQ section specifically for virtual on Team Canada Online, and if you just scroll down to the bottom, it really talks about all those terms in a little more detail or just summarize. So if you're ever confused, like what cards can I flip again, you can just go there and it summarizes it all quite nicely on there. So.
Do you want to get into respond? The phrasing respond. So like your opponent cannot. Reversal restrictions. Where there's your opponent cannot play reversals versus this card cannot be reversed by.
Yeah. So
where
there's a play restriction and a reversal restriction, basically. And restricted use removes a reversal restriction. So if a card that your opponent plays or has in play that says your opponent cannot play X, then you can't restricted use because it's a play restriction. But if it says your opponent cannot reverse with X, you can then restrict it because it's a reversal restriction. So you gotta look for those 2 words, play versus reverse. And yeah, you have a good card right there.
Yeah, backed by SmackDown GM Vicky Guerrero is a pre-match event that says your opponent cannot play non-superstar specific, non-D0 reversals, except for manager interferes or overshot your mark. So your first non-superstar specific SmackDown non-zero fortitude maneuver each turn. Very wordy.
Yes.
But what that does is it prevents your opponent from playing a
nerve hold
or
face stretch.
Or a nerve hold to a 8-for-8 face stretch. Yeah. They can't play a backslide to your running clothesline. Stuff like that. Actually, I read it wrong, where they can play manager interferes, but they cannot play overshot. Right. Because overshot's a 0 fortitude. So that is a play restriction.
Yeah, so you cannot play restricted use and then play a nerve hold or a backslide. You're just stuck playing D0 maneuvers or D0 reversals.
That will come up a lot in virtual.
So just watch out for it.
Anything else?
You can talk about capacity and slots.
Well, that's something they introduced in Comic Images. Altogether now.
Yeah.
Was the pre-match where all your pre-match and mid-match cards with chain, heat, volley, and the text do not take up a slot in your ring. Where capacity, where it'll say like this does not. Oh, what is it?
Basically, you're allowed to play 6. So if it increases your capacity, like a champ is here, you can then play 8. But those all take up slots. So only cards that specifically say this doesn't take up a slot, doesn't take up a slot. You can still play those cards when you are at full capacity because they don't take up slots. So even if you played your 6 pre-match, you can play a card like Playing by the Rules Throwback that says this card does not take up a slot. Really, I think outside of cards that say this does not take up a slot, that really only interacts with Flanked by Arena Security, which says if you have more than 5 slots used, there's a negative effect with it. So that's kind of where you can play 5 cards that take up slots and then 6 cards that don't take up a slot, but have 11 pre-match cards and still play Flanked because you only have the 5 cards that take up slots or capacities. So.
And that's something you'll notice, and I should have just let you explain that. I shouldn't have even tried. Where in virtual, you're going to see a lot more pre-match cards played.
Yeah.
You go look on the videos online that various people have posted, and you see a lot of backstage area and a lot of pre-match cards in the ring. It's just a big old purple fest.
And that's the problem getting into virtual is that you see that, you feel overwhelmed, it takes a while to learn them all, but once you do learn them, you can get through the pre-match still pretty quickly.
Mm.
There are quite a few cards that do take effects, but I mean, if you're playing like Interviewed by Mean Gene, doesn't really have an effect to resolve in the pre-match.
No.
Like you play a title belt with Champ is here, well, everyone knows that increases the capacity by 2, but you pretty well used them. Like so, once you get to know the cards, it goes by a little quicker. But yeah, the thing that slows Raw Deal down in virtual is not knowing what the cards do. So that just comes with time and playing and practicing, and you'll get it.